Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well today. Today I wanted to discuss a topic, and that is that this game is too hard in single player, and that the intended way to play the game is in multiplayer. Now, the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because whether it be people's review of Nightreign or comment sections where someone is griping about things in Nightreign, this is a sentiment that I see commonly. And today I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of single player because I actually think it's very nuanced. I think there's plenty of instances where single player is significantly easier. So I think what I'll do is I'll first go over the pros that people typically think of for co-op, and then I want to go over the things that are actually a lot easier in single player. When people say that multiplayer is easier, I think the first thing that they're thinking of is being able to revive teammates. You need something similar to a Winding Grace or your default revive for this to happen in single player. And if you played day one like I did, you know that without a Winding Grace you used to die instantly, which was a very bad feeling. But I do want to throw this out there. Are you serious? That had to kick on right now. I'm sorry if you can hear that. That's my AC unit. I think that the self-revives are way more consistent than reviving a teammate or being revived by a teammate, because it's always consistently the same outcome if you have to get revived by a Winding Grace or the end of day auto revive. You're always going to stay on the ground for a second and then effectively get healed back up to full. When you get picked up by a teammate, sure, you don't have a limited amount of these, but your teammate might turn their back to the boss and just die because the boss is going to start charging up some huge move. Say you're fighting Gaping Jaw, and it goes for the grab attack. Your teammate's not even looking at the thing, and you guys lose the run because you just watch him get crunched like a bowl of cereal, you know? The Winding Graces are consistent, whereas teammates are not. Also, what if you are at 3 bars and you don't have a Guardian on your team? What if your Guardian misses their ultimate? If they're locked onto the boss by accident and it moves away from the downed teammates, the Guardian could very well miss the revive on the teammate, which is a which is a very bad feeling when that happens. So that is significantly more consistent. Sure, it's limited, but you always know what you're gonna get. And the next big thing I think people think about when they're like, oh, multiplayer's easier, is they think about how easy it is to create the build on day 1 and day 2. Because if you have random teammates that are worth a darn, or if you're communicating with your teammates in a group call, then they can give you drops that are helpful to your build that you did not get as your drop. They instead got it, right? 3 people, 3 times as many drops effectively from bosses and things of the similar. So it only makes sense. Everybody is generally getting much better, much more consistent, at least, RNG when there's 3 of you. There's just a lot more roles to go around. And also, this is not always the case, but it can be easier to get to higher levels, say like 13 through 15, because it's a lot of enemies are very, very susceptible to getting wailed on by 3 people. Say a lot of enemies that are staggerable by just the R1s or R2s of Raider or Wilder, things like that. Other than a couple exceptions, things such as the Blackblade Kindred or Elm O'Brien, the enemies tend to fall pretty easily when 3 people are attacking them. However, this is where I think it's time to talk about the big things that are a big advantage for single player. The first one is enemy health. Enemy health is generally a lot lower in single player, to the point that, get this, you can actually see the yellow bar of you hitting the enemy. I think that does something to your psyche. I think that raises your internal thumos and your will to succeed against the boss, right? And on top of that, they have so much less posture. And what I mean by that is, if you hit an enemy with things that do a lot of posture damage, then eventually they will stagger, right? Well, bosses also, it's either the number for getting posture broken's way higher, or the team is doing less posture damage per player. But bosses tend to be much harder to break their stance in comparison to single player. It's very feasible to do it in single player, and stunning the enemy is one of, if not the best strategies for beating pretty much any enemy. If they can't move, or you get a huge damage window, that is always good, right? And so if you know what you're doing, like this right here, I'm going for these charged heavies. Look, I would not have gotten that posture break right there if I was playing solo. And look how much damage we just did. That combination of attacks and then the riposte we took, that was like a quarter of Gladius's health, right? So this is an example of something much easier in single player, right? Now, while I'm watching Gladius be a dickhead right here, it is worth mentioning that there are moments in the boss fights that are perhaps easier with teammates. When Gladius splits up and then does the roar into everybody attacking, that's pretty difficult in single player. It's much more manageable as Wilder, because you can use your grappling hook to try and quickly get away from all of them. But if you're not playing Wilder, yes, that does not feel particularly great. Another example is the charge in the pest fight when the moth sits on the scorpion's head, and then they go buckaroo bull riding with the scorpion. That's another attack that doesn't feel particularly amazing solo. But generally speaking, like, these can still be dodged in single player. It just takes a bit of practice that I'm still practicing. I'm not going to act like I'm amazing. Like, you've seen already in this footage me go down a couple times and get saved by auto revives, which, once again, much more consistent than a teammate picking you up, right? But yeah, generally speaking, you're able to learn all of these moves, learn how to dodge them in single player, and if you take the time, if you're okay with losing some runs to learn the boss, once you finally understand the moveset, it's definitely easier in single player. Being able to do so much more damage and so much more stagger once you understand. I'm so based for that, pointing down like that. Man, who raised me? It's so much easier once you understand the boss. And I reckon that multiplayer's easier when you don't understand the boss. I mean, I can tell you this, I currently have not beaten the night aspect solo, because that boss is like kryptonite to my brain. All of its attacks don't look like attacks to me, right? So I've only managed to beat it in co-op, where I'm a deadweight and my teammates are doing all the damage. But the moment that I understand how to fight that boss solo, I'm absolutely going to think it's easier solo, right? Because of all the aforementioned reasons. It is worth mentioning that how easy or difficult solo play is probably going to be influenced very heavily based on the character that you're playing. There are 3 characters that actually probably are just harder solo, and one that definitely is. So, Guardian, Recluse, Revenant. Guardian doesn't really do anything in solo play. Like, all of his advantages are mostly centered around supporting a team and holding your burst with invulnerability and max healing. That's not very helpful in single player because you don't have teammates attacking the boss with impunity, right? And then also Revenant and Recluse are very difficult in solo play because their health is so low. I've been spending a lot of time recently doing solo runs with Recluse, and it is very difficult. You get hit by one thing and you're done. It does not feel very good. So if you're playing characters like that, I understand. I understand because a character like Recluse really wants teammates who can take aggro. That way she can kind of just sit in the back and do whatever she wants and just coast in life. Just have an easy time, pretty much. And the same thing goes with Revenant, but Revenant has a little bit easier of a time because you have those summons that are able to take the aggro away from you, but it's still not amazing. Like, you still get coughed on and you die. So it's based on your character selection. I think if you play as Raider, Duchess, Executor, or Wilder especially, I think you're not going to have that bad of a time. Now granted, Duchess does gain a lot from being in co-op due to the pocket watch being able to rewind teammates' damage as well, but the dodges make her probably the best character for no-hit running. That is between her and probably Executor, if I were to guess, since he has those deflects and everything, but still a fantastic character for that. But with that being said, I think that that's just about everything that I wanted to talk about. I do recommend to all of you guys, go make a solo character and just fight the bosses with Wilder, and don't focus so much on winning as much as just learning the boss, right? And I think if you do that, you're going to find that you're able to be a better teammate when helping other people, but also that this game just is not that jellyfish right there's a real one. He protected the auger right there. I think you'll find that this game is actually not that different difficulty-wise to the past games. Now, it is worth mentioning before we sign off that the DLC is months away from coming out. The patch that is going to give the bosses a third phase, if I understood that correctly, those things have not come out yet. Maybe this will change with time, but if anything, I think that they will add systems that make this better for solo players. So with that being said, I recommend you guys take your time. Don't play this game like it's a chore. And have a good one, my dudes. Peace.